Greetings, my fellow YouTubers. This is a shot of whiskey, and I'm back after about a month and a half of being gone and dealing with finding a new editing software to fuck around with and binge watching Netflix and going back to school for journalism and also reworking on my novel. I am also wanting to continue to make videos such as this, which this one in particular is about the California 3-state initiative, which I'm a little surprised that nobody has been talking about. I mean, the only place where I've been hearing anybody on YouTube discussing this is on Tucker Carlson segments. What do you fucking do? So this, a little bit out of date, but basically it has been approved. It is going to be voted on. If it gets a yay, that doesn't mean the states are going to split apart. The state is going to split apart. Sorry. Let's not focus on my grammatical mistake. If the initiative gets a yay vote from the citizens, all that it means is that the governor will present this to Congress and say, this is what my state wants. And it's up to Congress at that point to decide whether or not they're going to go for it or not. So why do I care? I'm not a Californian. I've never been a Californian. My mom was a Californian. She was born there. She moved up here when she was like 11 or something like that. But I'm not a Californian. Fuck that shit. Well, the reason why I care is I can kind of relate. I have been hearing for like the past 13, 14 years, the state of Washington has had an off and on pursuit of basically the exact same thing. You'll see here the name Liberty is being used, which I don't entirely mind that idea. I'm honestly more against the idea of what they want to do as far as the capital. They want to take this small town that's part of the Spokane area called Spokane Falls, and they want to rename it as Opportunity. Who the fuck came up with that idea? Smack 'em. Anyways, that's why I care, is because I can relate to it. So, going back to California, the initiative specifies that if this all happens, the names that are provided, California, Northern California, and Southern California, are not going to stick. Those are there just as a point of reference. The citizens will be allowed to name their state. So, let's focus on the northern part. If we compare it to this image, which is also where I got the Washington State image. It was from an article that talks about a whole bunch of states, things that they've tried, things that they might be able to do, da-da-da-da-da. You know what, I'm just going to provide a link for you guys, so you can look at it if you want. You'll notice that the top one is called Jefferson. I, for one, like the idea of having Northern California being called Jefferson. So the only real difference is, let's go ahead and show the border wall-ish. North California would be part of Jefferson, as would the northern half of Silicon Valley, as well as the northern quarter of Central California. Boom, all one state. Now, I will say, for the sake of the social justice warriors, not that I sympathize with them, but that I want to prevent them from having an extra excuse to riot. If we're going to name it after a former founding father, let's not go with one who used to own slaves. Let's go with Franklin. Big impact that man had, and to my knowledge, he never once owned a slave. So maybe that would appease them enough to not cause a problem. As for the state capital, I for one like the idea of Sacramento. It's already a state capital. Why should they lose their status as a capital because of this? Let's go ahead and just keep it that way. Now, moving on, let's go to the area that's referred to as just plain old California. Comparing it to the map that I left behind with the whole Jefferson thing, basically it's all of West California and the southern half of Silicon Valley. That's it. One state. As for what I would call it, honestly, I would keep it as the name of California. Because after all, it kind of looks like a small version of the California we already have. Plus, let's be honest, when we think of California, we usually think of LA. That's just kind of how it goes. Kind of like how when we think of the state of Illinois, bam, we immediately think of Chicago. So it makes sense. However, if I were to change the name, I would go with Mierda. That sounds very pretty, doesn't it? Mierda. Mierda. For those of you who have no idea what the hell Mierda means, it literally means shit. And I think it's a very fitting name for the types of people that are down there. They are shit. Let's call their state shit, but make it sound pretty. There we go. As for a capital, I, for one, like the idea of Santa Barbara. Don't have it be in the actual LA area, which I'm sure would probably be the case. But something that's kind of close to it and not quite so far for places like Monterey, which is pretty much on the complete opposite side of this new state from Los Angeles. You know, make it a little more worthwhile for them, maybe. So as far as the part that's referred to as Southern California, right there in the orange, let's go ahead and compare it to the remaining destruction of the 6-state proposal. It is the entirety of South California plus the remaining 3/4 of Central California. Boom, all one state. Yay! Now, as for a capital, I was going to have it be Fresno, but thanks to that fat bitch from the university, I decided on Bakersfield. So, just makes more sense to me. Now, as for the state's name, this one kind of took a while for me, but it kind of dawned on me. Look at the border. What's currently the border between California and Mexico would go to this particular state. What's on the other side? What's the state that Mexico has that's there? Well, for those of you who don't know, it's Baja California. Or more accurately, Baja California Norte. That entire lengthy, thin peninsula is called Baja California, and they cut it in half towards 2 states. Baja California Norte and Baja California Sur, I believe is what it is. It's been a while since I've given it a shit. So, Baja, for those of you who don't know, translates out into low. Now, this, in this particular case, refers to like looking on it on the map. It's the lower part, but it's usually in reference to stuff like singing pitch, as well as like a bowl kind of thing, like low to the ground versus high up into the sky kind of thing. It's usually in reference to that. So with that in mind, I think I would change Baja California to High California, or let's go ahead and keep it as Spanish and have it be Alta California. I think that works. I think it makes sense. So, there you go. Now, of course, if this happens, this means there's going to be so much that they're going to have to sort out. Taxes, laws, all that kind of stuff. And perhaps the most important thing, and I only say the most important because it's probably the entire reason why this subject came up, because I know it was the case for Washington, elections. In particular, the presidential election. So you'll see here on the map, this is how things went when it was Clinton versus Trump. California is 55. That is a lot. You have to combine a bunch of states. I mean, the next best thing is Texas at 38. In fact, if you go from Texas and you drive straight up north, you'd have to get into Nebraska before you get a total that's worth more than California. That's just normal, and it's part of the reason why usually when you look at this map, you see more red, because reds tend to be the more common way to go for the less popular states. Not always, there's exceptions, of course, but that's the case in this one. So California would have to divvy it up. Now, I'm not exactly sure how that would go about being done, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to pretend that I am the god of this math. It says the total number of 55, but it's going to split up like this. Northern California, or as I'm calling it, Franklin, or Jefferson, gets 18. Alta California gets 12. And Mierda gets 25. I don't know. For those of you who actually give a shit, you can probably be able to figure this stuff out. This is what it looks like to me. So, but look at it this way. 12. That's almost always going to go Republican. I mean, there might be a Democrat candidate that they'll go to every now and then, because it's not like completely red there. There's enough blue to where I could see them making the sway over. And as for 18, I think it's going to vary. There's going to be times where it will go red. There's going to be times where it will go blue. As for Mierda, oh yeah, they're going to go blue. Almost guaranteed. The only way that I see them going red anytime soon would be if the next Republican candidate is Chuck Norris. And even then, I don't know if he'd be able to pull it off. So, but that's just kind of my opinion on that. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys have different name ideas? Do you guys give a shit? Go ahead and leave a comment below, and hopefully I won't take a month and a half for the next video. Peace out, everybody.